Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. If you're just joining us, we've been talking to a very special guest today. He's one of the most celebrated political, literary, and cultural voices in the country, and he's in Milwaukee as a keynote speaker for SDC's Summit on Poverty. Kevin Powell, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
And we were talking off camera, and I'm thinking, okay, we need to go ahead and roll with this. So you were talking about growing up with your single mother who constantly told you, don't be like your father. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, my father was 11 years older than my mother. She was in her early 20s when she had me, and he just was not respectful to women at all. I would find out years later, this gentleman had somewhere between 6 and a dozen kids. No one knows the exact number by a number of women because he was socialized the way many of us men are socialized, unless we break out of that pattern to see you all as sexual objects, you know what I mean? And that's how I regarded my mother. And, you know, he actually said to my mother when I was 8 years old, you know, we were so poor, bringing it back to poverty, we didn't have a phone in the house. We had to go to the corner store, drugstore to call. It was a rainy day. My mother said, can you help us? And my mother it wasn't the days of taking men to court, stuff like that. She said, can you just give me something? You know, you helped to create this child. And he actually said, you know, you lied to me. He's not my son. I'm not going to give you a near nickel for him ever again, you know. And it was devastating, you know. And my mother's point, I realized many years later, it's like, you know, you do not treat women that way. You know, you do not treat the child that you've created that way. Even if you don't get along with the woman, you do not just discard the child completely. Never saw him again. You know what I mean? Left a huge hole, you know. And then I'm out there trying to figure out, well, what is manhood? What is that, you know? Is it what I see with sports figures? Is it what I see in movies? Is it what I see on the streets? Is that what I see in popular culture? I grew up in hip hop culture. And, you know, it is all oftentimes toxic definitions of manhood. And people always say, well, Kev, what is manhood? If I could just say this really quickly, a man is someone who is accountable for his actions, someone who is responsible, who respects women as equals, who is peaceful and nonviolent and loving, and does not have a inability to express his feelings. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
A man knows how to express himself.
I just hope there are a lot of men.
None of that stoical stuff.
Out there taking notes.
None of that, you know, hard stuff and, you know, my actions demonstrate. No, you need to learn how to say, I love you, I appreciate you, I respect you. And it took me a long time to understand all of that, you know, and you know, and I'm all about let's redefine this thing. And when I think about Michael Bennett, the football player for the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, the way he expresses himself, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that is, you know, Ali, you've heard Muhammad Ali, the way he expressed himself.
Absolutely.
They have problems, but I was like, the thing is that whatever they felt, they said it. That's a different kind of manhood definition. That's what I'm interested in.
Yes, I mean, Muhammad Ali is a whole nother thing for me because I look at all of his accomplishments, but he also had some, you know,
serious patriarchal issues,
womanizing things going on as well. But still, I think that living becomes a balance, and you have to live a little to, you know, really understand what's required. And I think at the very end, he totally understood all those things.
You know, I do a lot of workshops around manhood around the country with men of all backgrounds. There's 6 things that destroy most men: sex, drugs, alcohol, violence, ego, money, over and over again.
Wow.
If you look at any man who gets in trouble,
order?
some combination of, but if you look at celebrities, athletes, I mean, you can go down a list of, it's always one of those things over and over again. And so one of my mentors said to me a long time ago, you're going to make mistakes, young man, but don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You know what I mean?
When you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
We've heard that a million times over. Now, you did mention that, you know, you grew up in hip hop. And
I did.
I mean, I've followed you for many years. I pulled off one of your books you wrote back in '97. I thought, goodness gracious, this was 20 years ago. And it was Keeping It Real. So you were kind of reflecting on your life up to that point. And now here we are with your memoir. But I wanted to talk about the fact that you were a member of the founding staff of Vibe magazine. Vibe, really just the historic value of what it brought to the world of hip hop, you know, Quincy Jones being a part of that, and you actually being able to be a writer and come across those artists who at the time we didn't know where they were going to be when it came to, you know, the history as far as their music. But you came in direct contact with Tupac Shakur. And Tupac had already known who you were because he watched you on MTV,
yes,
and he came to respect you and your work, and you had several opportunities to sit down and talk to Pac. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's profound. I got to say this. I actually wanted to be a news reporter. I didn't even want to be I didn't know what a music journalist was when I was coming up. When I was in college, I was really interested in news. That was my thing. Even though I loved entertainment, I loved sports, I don't even know why it was new. It was just because it was the 80s, 90s. It was like the Reagan Bush years. I remember reading about Nixon and Woodward Bernstein and how they exposed Watergate through the Washington Post. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to investigate people. But, you know, I moved to New York in the early 90s, and I heard that, you know, the Quincy Jones was partnering with Time Inc. to create this hip-hop magazine. And all I wanted was a little record review. We call it a CD review, you know.
Right.
And I got an opportunity to write not just the first, but the first 2 cover stories for Vibe magazine. Tretch from Naughty by Nature was on the cover of the first one, and then Snoop Dogg. Snoop was on the cover of the second one. And they asked me, well, who else do you want to write about? I said, well, this is a young man named Tupac Shakur. You know, he's not famous. He's in this underground film called Juice, but I think that he is the James Dean of the hip-hop generation.
Wow, look
and
at you.
They were like, nah. I was like, I'm telling you, he's the James Dean of the hip-hop generation. He turned out to be, but James Dean died at 24, Pac died at 25. I literally spent 3.5, 4 years of my life documenting Pac in New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Georgia, the interview famously in prison when he was in prison, and I was in Vegas, and I actually have not been back to Vegas since the day that Pac died, the day they announced it, but it was life-changing because you have those figures who come along, a James Dean, a Pac, a Janis Joplin, you know, these iconic, Ali, you know, who literally transform a whole generation of people, you know. People always ask me, well, you know, what was it about Pac? Well, he was brilliant. He had mad contradictions. He was funny as heck. You know, he was very loyal to people. What he felt, he said, you know. I remind people that in that prison interview, Pac maintained his innocence, that he did not sexually assault the young lady in the hotel room, the thing that put him in jail. But he said what I was guilty of was not stopping the other men from assaulting her. What man says that? He was 22, 23 when he said that. You know
I know.
what I mean?
Do you often sit and wonder, because I do, and I didn't even know him, but you wonder, what would Pac be doing right now? Where would his focus and his priorities be? You know, because like you said, there was these different sides. There was thug life, but then you also had this young man who was brought up by a mother who
was an activist, a Fanny
Shakur.
Shakur.
Right. And you know, I remember that film when he walked in, walking like the Black Panthers. There was just so much to this young man that it's hard to really
he could have been
imagine what he would be doing.
You know, what got me, I always felt that Pac would have been one of the great actors. Because I mean, unfortunately after Juice, because of his legal troubles, the stuff he kept getting in trouble with the law, basically, he lost a lot of prime roles. People forget that. You know, he did Poetic Justice, obviously. He got rave reviews for that, I remember. But it's like, I think Pac was a dynamic actor. I actually think he was a greater actor than he was a rapper, you know. People always say, well, Biggie or Pac? Well, Biggie was a great rapper. Pac had great moments. There's a difference there. But I think Pac would have, I also think Pac was a leader. He'd have used his platform the way Paul Robeson, Harry Belafonte, some folks who were entertainers, Bono from U2, who understand, okay, or George Clooney, I have this platform as an entertainer, but I want to do some stuff around social justice as well.
Yeah, I totally see that. Now, you're working on a biography of Tupac.
I am.
That's going to be coming out next year?
No, no.
Okay.
this is going to the screen first. We're actually in the middle of working on that. I can't say with who, but we're working on that, and I'm excited about it.
I'm loving that we got that first.
Yeah, it hasn't been casted yet, but I'll say this, I've been studying a lot of actors and actresses, because it's not just the Kevin character, but it's also my mother and her 2 sisters. So, you know, like when I saw Hidden Figures, I was like, okay, Taraji, Janelle Monáe, okay, you know what I'm saying? Which is exciting, because I actually wrote screenplays back in the 90s and I stopped, so I'm actually writing the screenplay with my writing partner. And the Tupac book is coming, you know. But the estate of Tupac is also doing a documentary film that I'm supporting as well. So there's a lot of energy around Pac over the next couple of years that I'll be involved in.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so talking about your place as we wrap up, your place in hip hop culture, because
Wow.
I mean, I look at some of the cats that we grew up, you know, jamming to. I'm aging myself with my words, I tell you.
That's all right.
Jamming to. You got LL, Rakim, Russell Simmons.
You don't listen to Kendrick Lamar?
I'm guilty of not being as in tune to the younger cats as I am the old school. So I'm guilty of that, but I'm
Kendrick,
very well aware. Yes. Chance the Rapper, I think. Yeah,
Chance.
these cats, they definitely have cats. That's an old word too.
Check out Cardi B too. I love her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I see her on reality TV.
Well,
so,
I'm talking about post-reality TV.
Post-reality TV.
Her recording career is fascinating.
The Bodak Yellow, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But what I'm saying
So you
is,
up on it?
I'm not totally out there, but I'm not as hip as I would like to be. I just see that the mindset and the lifestyle of hip hop. Some people are that are on the outside looking in always just look at it as a music thing, but it really is.
It's a culture.
It's a culture.
Yeah.
It's a mindset. You've got these cats who are now 50 plus who still have the hip hop mentality. It's not going anywhere. That is who they are.
Well, it's no different than when I see the Rolling Stones come out. You know, I'm like, they are rock and roll, they are blues, they represent it in their 70s. This is in their DNA, you know what I mean? James Brown was always going to be soul music, and you know, think about all folks who are jazz, it's in their DNA. So I speak it, I live it, the way I approach life, the way I work, you know, it's all hip hop. It's a certain energy, and people say, well, what is hip hop? It's making something out of nothing, it's winning on your own terms. I mean, I literally have not had a job in 20 years since Vibe magazine because of hip hop. You know, one of the first opportunities I had was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame said, hey, we're going to be doing this exhibit on the history of hip hop.
You're a curator.
I talked myself into the job of curator. That's
awesome.
hip hop, you know what I mean? And it was a life-changing experience. But, you know, that's our culture, the good, the bad, the ugly, you know?
Right. That's right.
And even as I'm in the culture, because I have the position around manhood now, which I was talking about earlier, I challenge inside the culture, hey, this is not acceptable. You know, we've got to move in a different direction.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for coming by. I know we could go on and on because he is just that deep, Mr. Kevin Powell.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Kevin's latest book is titled The Education of Kevin Powell, A Boy's Journey into Manhood. For more information, you can check out his website at kevinpowell.net. That is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, thank you for watching, and I do hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues in Milwaukee. Have a great day.